Welcome to Returning to Soul, a podcast for lawyers and other high achievers seeking deeper meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in their work and lives. My name is Jessie Brown. I practiced law for 15 years before becoming a coach and purpose guide for lawyers and other high achievers. I also work as a meditation teacher, breathwork facilitator, sound healer, and forest bathing guide, and I facilitate retreats in Sedona, Arizona. My next retreat, which is for women, is October 1st through the 4th. If you're interested, we have a few more spots, so please reach out. My guest today is a very special person. This is Chandani Patel Thompson. She is the founder of Clarity Print Co., the creator of the Point One Daily Gratitude Journal, and the host of the Rest to Rise Summit. Chandani, thank you so much for being here, and I would love if you could tell our audience a little bit about how you came to do this work.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I've been a lawyer for 13 years plus now. And I was in corporate legal departments for 20 years before venturing more recently and founding Clarity Print Co. to focus on helping professionals in high pressure roles like law, medicine, education, and the like, really reduce that cognitive overload and that pressure that we give ourselves and find more clarity in their lives. So that's a little bit about kind of my background. I'm also a mom of 3 young children. I have 2 dear cats, one just passed, but 2 fur babies. I'm a horse lover and a swimmer. And I care really deeply about doing meaningful work and helping others continue doing meaningful work. My goal is that lawyers will continue to be and stay in the profession in a way that works more sustainably for them. And I like to do that through conversations like this one, through the summit, and through my physical products like the Daily Gratitude Journal.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I know that your daily gratitude journal arose from your own experience with the power of gratitude in your own life. And we hear so much about gratitude, but I too believe it actually can change your experience of life and the quality of your life. I have a little piece of art downstairs in my house that says, focus on the good and the good will come into focus. And maybe it sounds like a cliche or cheesy, but I'm like, oh, if you do this, like it will change your life. So I really believe in this. And I would love for you to share with our listeners the impact that gratitude has had on your life and how the Point One Daily Gratitude Journal came to be.
Yeah. Gratitude has definitely changed my life. So much so that I've created a business out of it, right? It is really that powerful. And what I love about it the most is that it is just so simple and it can literally be free, right? It's a free thing that we don't take advantage of enough. And the neuroscience and the research just shows how incredible and powerful practicing gratitude can be. But I think a lot of people don't know how to do it. And I feel like that's my calling now, to share it with the world. But as far as how it started is, I just by happenstance, I'm a big paper snob and I love journaling and I love buying all kinds of journals. And I was looking for a new one, just scrolling Amazon one night, still practicing law at the time. And I happened to find a gratitude journal. I don't know if it was an ad or whatnot, but I was like, oh, let me try this. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really know that there was a thing about, gratitude journaling, but I bought it. And I started practicing using the journal. So I did 3 minutes in the morning. I said what I was grateful for. And I set an intention for the day. And then I did 3 minutes in the evening where I wrote down all my wins and who I served by doing what I did and accomplished that day and how it made me feel. Those very simple things that I did. And it was interesting because at the same time I started practicing gratitude, I started working with an executive coach. And I was in a 3-month program. And by the end of month 2, I had a one-on-one with her. And she was like, what have you been doing differently? Like, you seem so much more grounded, less guarded, Like, what has changed for you? And I honestly hadn't realized how powerful gratitude was until she said that, because that was the only thing that I really had changed in my life and brought that into my life more consistently. And then, literally within a couple of weeks of that conversation, I knew that I needed to create a journal that worked for me. And then shortly thereafter, I knew I wanted to create one for lawyers because it was so impactful on my life. And it is true. I felt less grounded. I felt lighter. I felt more clear. And most of all, I had more capacity. Like, I didn't even realize the capacity it gave me to be able to work, be a mom of young kids. Like, my daughter at the time when I started practicing, she was born in January 2024. So I had a very young, my third child plus another two. So I was juggling a lot and a very demanding job as a lawyer, being second in command to the chief legal officer, right? And so I had a very difficult role at work and in life, and gratitude literally shifted everything where I was less triggered. Like, I didn't, and it really permeated throughout. That it was interesting because I wasn't the first to notice. It were the people around me noticing that I was not as triggered easily. I was like so much more grounded, so much more resilient in, and really that like kind of led to being resilient emotionally, which the science shows, right? It is really a form of emotional regulation that I didn't have previously. And so it's just been, since that point, a huge eye opener to me of like, wow, I know how it works. I know it works because I lived it. And I can tell you it works from my lived experience. And now I'm so excited to dive deeper into the science, because really the neuroscience just, it's so vast in terms of the effects that gratitude has on your life. The research like not only suggests that it lowers your stress level, it can really improve the quality of your sleep. It gives you stronger immune function, better heart health, improved mood. Of course, that was like the number one thing for me, greater emotional resilience, like I talked about, and supporting the parts of the brain that are involved in thinking and decision making and emotional awareness, that prefrontal cortex, and motivation too, right? Like really being able to reduce the stress of reactivity and start to be more proactive in how you respond, right? Or think a little bit more because you're more grounded and your nervous system is just freed. Is the That was the number one thing I could say, is I just feel so much lighter and so much more free from all of the mental pressure that I had put on myself, which was really emotional pressure.
Wow, what a transformational story. The impact of gratitude is amazing. And, I was just reminded of something from about a year ago. I worked with a client who was an equity partner at a big firm, and she was very unhappy in her job. So beautiful life outside of work, but work was like the pain point for her. She was just like, and always complaining about work. And she had actually liked being an associate, but for various reasons, she was not enjoying being a partner. And one thing I invited her to try in between our coaching sessions was I got this from, I think it was like a story on NPR like 10 years ago. They called it Three Good Things, that whoever they interviewed, and it's a gratitude practice. So you just identify every day three good things. So I've done this with my kids for years. Over dinner, they're complaining about something, and it's like, okay, let's shift it. What are three good things from your day? Nothing. I can't think of anything. Really? So just to help with their perspective a little bit. But with this client, I invited her, like, just maybe journal three good things about work every day for the next, 2 weeks until we meet again. If you can't come up with anything, like, that might tell us something. But perhaps there are things about your work, it's really serving you or your life in some way that you're not aware of. So just to help her get a little bit of clarity on like what's going on with the work stuff. But I think the way gratitude has impacted your life is really inspiring. And also, what you shared about your evening practice is connecting your work during the day with what gives you a sense of meaning and purpose and your greater why, which is so profound. And you're mentioning neuroscience and the brain. And what I'm reminded of is the work of Dr. James Doty, who passed away last year, but a neurosurgeon, neuroscientist. He's affiliated with Stanford and a really amazing guy. And he wrote a book called Mind Magic and another memoir as well about the power, leveraging the power of the brain to manifest. And he talked a lot about connecting what we want to manifest with a greater purpose, like something more than ourselves, not just like ego desires, but how is this going to positively impact the world? How is this going to contribute something of goodness, love, truth, beauty, something in the world? Even loving the high quality paper products in your journal, that's beauty. It's an object of beauty. It's a way to engage with beauty and also goodness and love and all of that. So I'm just sensing that your practices, are really grounded in science and can have a huge impact.
Yeah, thank you so much for naming that, because that's exactly what I feel called to do and share is the science behind the practice, right? And I know you asked about the point one method, which is the core to the journal. It is a 6-minute practice. It's why it's called the point one daily gratitude journal, coming from our law backgrounds. Point one, right? It's something relatable, and it just is a testament to the fact that it can be a short practice, right? To give yourself just point one in a day can be so life-changing, because it changed my life. And so I feel like now I'm in, I want to serve others and share with them that it can be small yet still so profound. And in terms of the method itself, I like what you said about like manifestation, because the morning practice, which I call the morning brief, the 3-minute practice, is 3 daily gratitudes. And then I have a weekly theme for each of the 12 weeks. It's a quarter-long journal. And so each day has an affirmation that ties into that weekly theme. So the first week is about self-worth and boundaries. And so the first affirmation is, I am worthy, I am enough. And I think it's not just that, but that's like your reminder. But then I have space for how do you want to feel that day? So that you're really setting an intention or actually it's how do I want to see the day go? But I like to write how I want to feel that day. You can use the space how you want it, but that was what I felt was lacking from the journal I had, is not enough space for my analytical mind to write down what I wanted, how I wanted to see the day go and how I wanted to feel in that day from an intentional perspective, writing it down, because I strongly believe that you can manifest what you want in your life by saying it out loud or writing it down. And so I wanted to give professionals that space in the journal to do that. So more of that side of the spread, it's mostly lines to write that down. And sometimes I use it as a to-do list for that day, the priorities that I want to set, even though there's a priority section in the beginning of the week. And then, so that's the morning brief. It's just 3 gratitudes. You can read the daily affirmation and then do your intention setting practice for the day. And then in the evening, it's called the evening close. You are writing down what you accomplished that day and who you served and helped by doing what you did that day. And that's where we tie into the purpose piece that we talked about. And that's just proven to be very meaningful because it reminds you of why you started in the first place. And I think when we're constantly hustling and pushing and continuing to do and do and do, because our clients and our work requires it of us, we sometimes lose sight of why we're doing it. And so it brings us back to the why. And it's been really eye-opening to then, there's so many ways that can go, right? You don't just, like for me right now, it's like I'm maybe grateful for all of the amazing speakers that are speaking on my summit, right? And something I accomplished is I recorded 3 sessions today. And then I can tie it back to who did I help and serve by doing those recordings? Well, all of the listeners who are now in this high pressure environment or in this high pressure role and don't know how to rest. Well, I'm serving them by hopefully instilling them some practical tools that they can take in their day and start to rest and then remember and make that space for their purpose. Remember why they started so that they hopefully continue doing the amazing work that they're doing, because I'm here to serve the people who are continuously serving others, their clients, right? These are service oriented professionals who are giving, giving, giving of themselves and forgetting to take point one for themselves and be reminded of their brilliance. And so that's where the evening closes, and it also asks the user to feel into how they're feeling. Like, how does that make them feel knowing they did all of these things? It's got an impact level chart that they check. It was a small, medium, large impact, who they served and how it made them feel. And then there's one other section on the daily spread, and that practice, evening close, should also only take 3 minutes. And there's a midday recess section for times of stress in the center of that page so that you can come back to the journal. I like to leave it on my desk to be reminded of my brilliance and open it on that page. And remember, when I'm like super stressed out in the middle of the day, I can go to that page and I can have a somatic technique ready for me that won't take me more than a minute or two to really feel grounded. Like, place your hand on your heart and ground yourself, breathe in deeply, right? And remind yourself that you are enough. Like, that's one of the practices, right? And it really does shift your body and your mind. And that's what the somatics are all about. And so that's essentially the method in the journal. And really, gratitude's there to shift and widen that attention and awareness to what is happening beyond the threats in our lives. Lawyers are so conditioned to, focus on the worst case scenario. We have to look at the risks. And so gratitude, I think, was so life-changing for me because I'm constantly thinking about the worst case scenario and how to mitigate that risk, where gratitude is reminding me of all of the good that is happening in my life and around me, which just opens that aperture in your brain to then notice it more, right? And have the more capacity to then, and resilience to like protect your time, prioritize, build those boundaries in, which will ultimately live to a more fulfilled and happier life.
Yeah, wow. Well, this is amazing. I mean, what a science-based, incredible tool this journal is. I'm just loving it. And like my brain is, I'm seeing all the different components, why it's so transformational. So this is incredible. Before, I would love for you to share a little bit about the Rest to Rise Summit that's coming up that you were just mentioning. But before we pivot, where can listeners find this journal? Where can they purchase their own copy?
Yeah. So if you decide to join the Rest to Rise Summit, you will get access to not only the first journal that I created, the Point One Daily Gratitude Journal for Lawyers, but I'll be debuting 2 additional journals through the summit, one for educators specifically, and one is the original Point One Daily Gratitude Journal for all of those professionals in high pressure roles in service of others who could really benefit from starting a gratitude practice. So if you join the summit, you will have an opportunity there to learn about the other 2 products, which are exclusive at the time to the summit. And then if you want to purchase the lawyer version, that is available at clarityprint.co.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yes, if you could share with our listeners, I know I'm so excited about the Rest to Rise Summit. This is exactly what I needed as a practicing lawyer, balancing the demands of, big law litigation with young kids. I really could have used this summit. But I'm really glad that you are bringing this to people. It's an inspiring group of panelists that you have. And I would love if you just could share with our listeners a little bit about the 6 types of rest that you've identified and what they can expect from the summit.
Yeah. So I'm so excited that you are going to be a speaker and a featured expert on the summit. We've got 17 different speakers speaking to 6 different forms of rest in my rest framework. And the forms of rest are mental rest, emotional rest, physical rest, identity rest, which you're speaking to, relational rest, and strategic rest, which is where I've put my journal. Although, as we've talked about, I feel like the journal touches on all the different forms of rest in one capacity or another. And for me, it was a big part of it was emotional rest as well. So I have a variety of amazing experts, therapists, psychotherapists, mental health experts coming to speak and teach us not only on what these different forms of rest mean, but how you can really incorporate them into your day. I think my framework is a little bit unique, and so you may not understand what they mean from the onset, but I'm excited for everyone to kind of experience each one in real time, because each session will kind of go deeper, and we've got at least 2 sessions on each form of rest so that you can not only understand it, hear from others on how they practice it, but each speaker will also be teaching a segment and providing an actual experience that you can take away and start implementing into your daily lives. I think we're definitely speaking to folks who have very demanding schedules, but at the end of the day, I feel like the 6 forms of rest really lean into our body, our brain, our heart, our identity, our relationships, and the structure that we need to live a more freeing, light, fulfilled, and purpose-driven life.
Yes, I love it. And one of the things I really admire about your work and about this summit is it's so doable. You know what it's like to balance a really demanding job with raising little kids, and the practices that you offer and that have transformed your life are just, people can implement them in their lives. So we're not saying you need to go to a yoga retreat in Bali for 2 weeks or, to an ashram in India. Like, it's point one. It's just these little practices that right now people can start, feeling better, getting more clarity, more space. So I think it's really awesome. And where can people sign up for this Rest to Rise Summit?
Yeah, so you can see at the top of our main website, clarityprint.co, there'll be a link there. But also, if you go to rest2rise.clarityprint.co, and Jesse will put a link in the show notes, you can register there and experience the 4-day summit. It runs from May 19th to the 22nd. Yeah, you get to experience that in your own time. And I hope that people don't feel overwhelmed by the number of sessions. Take what resonates, right? It doesn't need to be like, you don't need to be perfect about it and attend every session. There will be an opportunity to also get an audio only version of it later. So don't feel like you have to be there on those days to experience all of these forms of rest. But I hope that you'll take away at least one form of rest that you maybe didn't think of before. And if you're listening to this after the summit, just know that you can still access the Rest to Rise guide that I have that goes over each form of rest, the benefits of it, the science behind it, and how you can actually implement some real short practices and techniques to start implementing these different forms of rest in your life. And that you can find at rest.clarityprint.co if you're joining us after the summit. But if you're joining us before, you will get the guide as part of your registration, and it will essentially, walk you through the 6 forms of rest. And I hope that you'll get to go deeper with us into what recovery can really look like for us professionals in high pressure roles, and why it becomes a competitive advantage when you do.
Absolutely. Yes. I mentioned a little bit about this in my talk for the summit, but I have a client who's a partner at a big firm, also a mom of young kids, and her husband has quite a big job as well. And she's noticed just implementing these little bits of rest into her day, basically single tasking, focusing on one thing at a time with complete attention, having little breaks, buffers between meetings rather than, jamming the day full. She's noticed not only is she feeling better, but she's thinking more clearly, able to communicate more clearly with her clients. She's like, I'm actually showing up better, having more, insights into how to help her clients as a lawyer. So it definitely helps with our performance as well.
Yeah, and that cognitive overload and decision fatigue, I think we don't talk about it enough as in-house lawyers. That's where I was most of my career, is especially as second in command, with the switch cost of doing a privacy matter 1 hour, and then I was doing an HR employment matter the next hour, and constantly switching. And so the gratitude practice and the work that we're both doing really can help reduce the cognitive overload and give professionals a way to come back and find the mental clarity that they feel so pressured before that they've kind of lost.
Absolutely. I love it. It's really powerful work, and it's very accessible for busy professionals to implement, starting today. So I hope our listeners will join us for the summit. And if not, we have the Rest to Rise guide, as you said, that they can check out. And where can they find out more? We have your resources, but where are you online? Can they engage with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, but the tools are also accessible on Instagram, and there'll be more conversations like this one happening soon on Substack. So you can follow me on Substack, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Those are probably where I'll be most active.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm inspired. I know our listeners are inspired, and I'm so excited for the Rest to Rise Summit. And for everybody who has tuned in, thank you for spending this time with us. This is Returning to Soul. We're so glad you're here. And until next time, be well.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.